Yeah, and then I saw this in Celia. Wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is the city.
Well, it's 7:03, starting a little bit late, but thank you for being here, all who are online and all who are present. My name is Tony Whalen, and so we're going to have a 15 or 20-minute talk from Karen and Doug Ziegel. They are from half an hour, whatever you like. No, they told me it's 15 or 20 minutes, and they're going to be taking questions. So all the way from Philadelphia, you know what? You have changed everything as far as I'm concerned. After they talk, I'm going to talk for 10 minutes or so and just tell about my experience with this issue. But it changed drastically, I guess, a few months ago when I emailed Karen and her interest in coming here. And I think that this event could really be a game changer. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Karen and Doug.
One of the most amazing men I've ever met. You're really bucking a whirlwind of change here, but thank you for inviting us today. It was a pleasure for us to be here. We're going to make a statement that we hope fulfills Tony's dream to reach schools. And I would like to use that video that you're producing in America as well, because we have just as much problem. And more importantly, I want to thank you for all your time, and I'm sure a great deal of personal expense to try to save children. This is a topic that is very hard to get people to listen to and understand. I have close friends. I have relatives that I can't convince to some of the problems that we see and actually know from science. So I appreciate you, Tony, for trying to do this. It isn't easy. And thank you all for being here in the audience to encourage us. And everyone that's online, we pray you share this with your administrators and your school districts, wherever they may be, and hopefully we can make some change. Our hope is together that we can raise awareness for the dangers of repetitive hitting and contact sports. And hopefully we can convince school administrators to do no harm. No leader in an educational institution should want to harm children in their care. Yet every day we see children being harmed at great numbers playing contact sports in schools. And right now schools are celebrating these activities which actually ruin children's brains. And sadly, most parents and most administrators are unaware of the harm that's being done. That is why Tony wanted this informational meeting. If we know the facts, we can do better, and we can protect the beautiful children that God has gifted us. If we know better, we can turn our backs on misguided traditions or success or whatever it is that motivates people to do what is clearly the right thing, which is do no harm. So a little bit about us. 12 years ago, we lost our son to suicide, but we didn't really lose our beautiful boy to suicide. We lost him because we let him play tackle football. We cheered him on as he scored touchdown after touchdown for his high school team. We celebrated when he made it to Dartmouth College and got on their football squad. And we traveled all over the country to watch him in Ivy League games. But the Patrick who came home when he graduated was not the Patrick that we had sent, not the beautiful boy we'd sent off to school. He was very changed. He was moody, angry, depressed. He was unable to perform executive functioning for any length of time. This is someone who just graduated from Dartmouth. He was diagnosed with ADHD, explosive disorder, and anxiety. He became addicted to Percocet. We were at a loss to know what was going on. We were desperate, and the doctors were just as confused as we were. And after 10 years of struggling with being misunderstood because he was not understood, and constant sleeplessness, he couldn't sleep, and irrationality, a lot of irrationality, the door for suicidal thinking swung open, and Patrick walked through that door.
So what happened? And how can we prevent this from happening with other bright minds and other bright children like Patrick? First of all, we need to understand the human brain. For many of us, we don't even know the brain exists in our head. We're concerned about our organs, our eyes, our ears, we protect our teeth, but we really are not thinking about our brain. Scientists have compared the neural pathways in a human's brain to the cosmic web of superclusters in galaxies across the universe. The brain contains 86 billion, with a B, neurons. Neurons are mini computers that receive, process, and transmit signals throughout the body. And each of those 86 billion neurons have 25,000 synaptic connections. And these neurons and all of their important connections control everything about us, yet they're floating in a jello-like substance in our skull. It's the 3-pound organ that regulates all of our bodily functions. It regulates our processes, our sensory information, and generates the molecular basis for cognition, consciousness, and emotion, right? And we barely know the brain exists. So why don't we worry more about our brain and care for it more? Well, part of the reason is the fact that the brain is protected by the blood-brain barrier, which isolates the brain from toxins and bacteria. The brain also has a protective shell called the skull. But the biggest reason we don't worry or seem clueless about the brain, the damage is occurring, is that unlike other organs in the body, the brain doesn't sense pain. So if you slap your hand gently for 10 times, you probably won't notice it. But if you continue to slap it 200 times, it's going to get red, and try it sometime. It's going to get red, and you're going to want to stop. And you will, and it will heal. Yet if we have minor impact to our brain, subconcussive impact to our brains, those same 200 reps are not registering. We're not feeling it in the same way. But the brain, if you hit it a lot, it starts to become inflamed and you won't feel that pain, right? And this is a huge problem, and you just keep going, especially when the game is on the line and that's important to you. That's what happened to Patrick. He was a running back as well as a defensive back. And he started taking and making tackles at the age of 10. And by the time he was in high school, he was carrying the ball 60 times a game. And he was also playing on defense. Patrick was tackling 4 days a week in practice, as all the kids were. So poor Patrick's brain was inflamed for over 12 years in a row. And it can take years for that brain inflammation to heal. So throughout those years, his brain was also developing and pruning and making him the amazing human that God intended him to be. But all the while, he was dealing with the constant barrage of hitting, inflammation, and rewiring. Patrick never had a concussion. Patrick just played the game he loved. and it killed them. Perfect. It's great to have the sirens right on cue.
So kids' minds are like cosmic computers. And kids can take a hit now and then. You know, they play rough. They can fall off a bike. They roughhouse with their friends. But that's okay. Science is showing, though, that if you have multiple hits with a child's brain over a long period of time, the brain becomes inflamed, and that's when the problems start. Research is showing that repetitive hits over a long period of time can lead to ADHD, which we're seeing in schools a lot, depression, behavioral issues, aggression, impaired judgment, suicide, and drug addictions. This is something people don't understand. When the brain's unwiring, you need to do something to make it feel normal, and that's where addictions come in. And the worst case is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and that is a brain disease that you get from the inflammation in the brain. And that's, people say CTE to describe chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a big word, and it's degenerative, and there's no cure for it. And Patrick had CTE, but CTE is 100% preventable. If I wouldn't have let him play tackle football, he never would have had CTE. His brain would not have deteriorated and unwired. So this is our statement to schools. Educational institutions have the responsibility to nurture and develop the precious minds in their care. We're here to ask them not to promote the destruction of those very same minds. It's their duty to be aware of the dangers of repetitive head impacts and the very real dangers of CTE and brain matter changes just from contact sports. It's their responsibility to curtail these activities because they're really not supposed to do harm. Science is showing that children's brains in particular are more fragile to repetitive hitting. And just 1 year of tackle football can change a child's brain forever. And science is showing that girls' brains are more fragile than boys' brains. And science shows that repetitive hits in soccer, hockey, lacrosse, and rugby, not just tackle football, they're all detrimental to a developing brain. The problem is not concussions. You hear that a lot. Don't get us wrong, concussions are bad. Concussion is a brain injury to the brain. But the bigger and unrecognized problem, the problem no one is recognizing, is that all the repetitive hits that you get playing in a game that you love and that everybody loves you playing is promoting inflammation in the brain, just like the slapping the hand. And if you keep it up and you don't stop it, it sets the stage for brain disease and damage.
So we ask you, do you know of past students who committed suicide or died from drug overdose? We suspect you do. And studies show that a person with head trauma is 6 times more likely to develop opioid dependence. Studies have shown that the child with brain trauma is 2 times more likely to experience depression and 3 times more likely to attempt suicide or commit a crime. And we ask you to think about the students you've already lost. What can we do to prevent more children from dying from a broken brain? The future of these kids is on your shoulders. You may not have known before, but now you know. Your school has a moral issue. If the role of our schools is to strengthen and build young brains, how can a school justify and invest significant amounts of time, resources, money, and effort, and emotion into activities that endanger those brains? Currently, the NFL and the NCAA are dealing with lawsuits that claim that preventable brain damage and damage is a matter it's a matter of time before now it's a matter of time before the lawyers turn their sights on school districts and the insurance companies take flight. And plaintiffs have gotten proof that districts have been warned. In fact, we're preparing to send every school district a warning letter about the dangers of repetitive impacts and that allows students to be hit repeatedly. Would you allow students to be hit repeatedly by the class bully? Or are all schools are being put on notice? There is no science out there saying that contact sports are safe for kids. Educated parents are already getting the message and making wise choices for their children. Youth tackle football has declined by 25% in the US from 4 million to 3 million participants. It needs to go to 0. Every year, more and more schools are eliminating tackle football, and it's time for leaders in education to set examples and do the right thing and show concern for its children despite public pressure. It's your responsibility to warn parents about CTE. Do parents know the dangers their children face? We're not talking about concussion protocols, which really have nothing to do with CTE. We're talking about the chance that your contact sport athletes may receive brain damage from repetitive hitting and have a ruined future. And while the benefits of fresh air and exercise and teamwork are well known by the football community, the inherent danger of brain disease is not. It costs us our son's brain and ultimately his life. Every parent and student should be warned about the dangers of CTE and repetitive head impacts.
So if I may be blunt to the school districts that we're speaking to, if you continue contact sports as usual, you're making a conscious decision to do physical harm to the brain of your students. Let's say you get the kids through school and on to adulthood. You may be out of the woods in your mind, but you've already done the damage. It doesn't go away. Are you going to be there to offer financial assistance when your former athletes lose their jobs or make terrible life choices? Are you going to supply the medical assistance needed for drug rehab or psychological support for schizophrenia, paranoia, depression, anxiety, and the myriad of mental issues that come from an inflamed brain? CTE doesn't develop right away. It can take years, even decades, for symptoms to emerge. When society finally realizes that we've been ruining the brains of our children, and they look to your institution as the culprit, will you be able to say that you protected children? Not if you let them play contact sports. You have an opportunity to step forward to protect children in your care. We do not want to put schools out of business. Some will say football programs attract students for the athletics. We would argue there's a much greater advantage to being the place where children are safe and they have a greater chance for success in life. Kids face all kinds of pressures to do dangerous things. Being the place where children are truly valued and their brains are valued is surely going to attract greater enrollment. In summary, finally, it's about doing the right thing with the treasures we've been given. Because once brain damage is done, it can't be undone. We don't get a do-over with children's brains and their futures. Let's give them a chance. Better yet, let's promote brain health and support it. And you may lose a few students who look at sports as a way to succeed instead of scholastics. But you will gain the following of families who truly want their children to be safe, and they want their children to grow and thrive in a safe environment. No game, no scholarship, and no championship is worth the life of a child. We had the games. Patrick got the scholarship. But now all we have is a room of empty, dusty trophies and mountains of regret.
So change is on the horizon. We know this. And we're asking you to be leaders and protect the students now. Let's first do no harm. Thank you.
This is the best group to get an applause from. Most of you stayed awake. Thank you.
And we'll open for questions, and we'd love to hear from you. But there's one thing I think we neglected to mention, which is the importance of a good helmet. It's really not that important. And this is a tragic view of a helmet. And if you look at an NFL player's helmets, they're all banged up. But what we're trying, the message that we're trying to convey is that this incredibly intricate and extremely delicate and sophisticated organ in a gelatinous fluid is bouncing around inside of your skull, right? That helmet protected the player's skull from fracture. Well, maybe not in that case. But and I had a grandfather say, I got my kid a $1,500 helmet. He's going to be great. And I said, oh man, I wish you were right, but you're wrong. And you just got rid of a lot of money, but he's got a beautiful helmet. But I'm sorry, I just answered my first question. But if anybody has any other questions.
Any questions?
We look at this, oh, please.
You mentioned that you're getting a lot of resistance, even among friends and family members. And I would assume so, like you said, it's such a tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anywhere where you were getting support? Were there people that,
Tony in 10 years.
yeah, were there like,
No, I
some
usually,
people get
we do
concerned?
get a lot of support, sadly though, from people whose husbands have their brains have started to degrade. CTE has kind of there's two things that happen. There's repetitive head impacts causing white matter damage, gray matter damage, and inflammation. And those are all bad things. Those are wherever that white matter damage is and gray matter damage is. And that can happen from one really good hit or one concussion. Whatever that is, that's affecting, he said 25,000 pathways out of each neuron, and there's 86 billion of them. So you start damaging that. The brain's still operating. You're still you. You're still great, but you're not as good as you would have been. So I forget, what was the question? Oh, so the support with CTE, so that's the white matter damage and that happens, and that happens almost immediately. Then the inflammation starts to take effect. And the inflammation, I think Patrick had inflammation for 20 years. I don't think, people say they get a concussion, go back to play in 2 weeks. I think that inflammation is still there in a year. And they really can't tell you if it's there in a year or not. The neurologists do not know. So I think an inflamed brain is where the problem comes, because you hit it again and you hit it again and you hit it again, and the inflamed brain doesn't know what to do with what's going on. The inflammation was supposed to help it. Now you're hitting it again. And I think it's just like a body being hit with chemicals. You can take a few chemicals here and there, but if you keep doing it enough, your body just can't fight it off anymore. And I think that's what happens to the brain. The brain kind of just gives up, and tau starts forming, and this brain disease starts forming. And it takes a long time for it to start affecting what happens to you. But it affects a lot of areas in your brain. It starts to spread like cancer. And Patrick got to the point where he couldn't tie his shoes. He didn't know how to tie shoes anymore. He couldn't sign his name. He said, I forgot how to sign. It was like he was almost like an Alzheimer's patient. But then could go out, he could take his Adderall for ADHD and go out and do an amazing test or do something, a brilliant thing for a short period of time. but his brain was truly unwiring. And so where the support comes from, well, long way to answer that. Where the support comes from is women who are watching their husbands deteriorate, or moms who are watching their sons start to, they're coming home from college not being able to function like Patrick did. We're getting support from people who are living, they believe now.
Yeah,
But I
we're
don't
all-
get the believers. I've never taken a group like you and made you believers.
We're
sadly.
all part of a club that nobody wanted to join.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the support from people that know us, knew Patrick, saw Patrick on Wired, came to his funeral, and have their children playing tackle football, are not being supportive. They're not. But the narrative is so strong. You know, football owns Friday Night Lights for the kids in high school, and right. Saturdays college football, Sundays pro football, Monday night football is certainly a reason to love a Monday, and off we go. And we might as well cancel Chevrolet and apple pie. Well, these are American, forgive us. There's a lot of things we'd like to cancel right now, but
We're sorry.
It's so woven into our world that real men can tackle. That's what we do, you know, and we can prove our mettle.
That's exactly a perfect lead into my question. Is, I guess, in the work that you've been doing and speaking to school boards, have you talked about how do you change the culture that you know corrals guys to do that? My father played. I was the pressure for me to play.
Yep.
My dad played at Parkdale over here, and again too, he was the golden boy, grade 9. Quarterback, everything, and so the man said, "Well, son, you can play too." And we used to do all that. And, I used to watch football and play. I got cut in grade 10. Got a car, and I thought that my life was over. My father would expect me more.
You know, it
was I was saying then my granddad, that one more time, but then I made it. Then I got onto the university team. And so forth. But I think God had his plans, and when I turned an ankle and the season ended, quickly, that was probably that kind of blessing in disguise. But I remember it took some time to say, wait a second, there's other avenues. That isn't the only kind of sport or the only way that young men can have improving grounds and so forth. But I think so much of that, if that's the culture, is that's where you do it. And flag football, that just doesn't cut. That's
it's a good alternative, but it could also be a gateway to tackle. But there's a couple of points that we made. One is, unfortunately, it may be the lawyers that get it straight. Once there's general and there's enough science to prove that the damage is being done. Now what do? And unfortunately, Karen and I have spoken to school boards that are absolutely blown away. And the athletic director says, you know what, we're going to go in and we're going to meet with the board and we're going to straighten things out. You guys, you're right. We get ghosted. After they go back to school and find out, oh my God.
After they talk to the head coach.
We might as well just shut down the school. I mean, look, we built this stadium that has AstroTurf and parking. And the team, we're the Bulldogs. We can't un-bulldog our school. So that's one of the challenges. I'm sure you see others, but it's uphill all the way. I don't know how we can convince. It's almost like one person at a time, and I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm reminded of the COVID days. I was working here, and all the media was saying, "Don't do this." 6 feet apart. And I told my staff, I said, what are they trying to do? Put the fear of God in us? So at St. Francis Table, I said, we're not living in fear. We're going to live in hope. And I think that hope got us through. We never missed a day during COVID. When we hear stories like yours, there's fear, that people don't care, what is government, what are school boards doing to give us a greater sense of hope in our lives? You know, and I think that, you know, your presence here this evening, you know, gives us hope. You know, that as you say, it might be one person at a time, one family at a time, you know, one life at a time. But I think we got to live in hope that, you know, we will continue to progress in the best interest of life.
Yes. I truly think that in 20 years, we will not have tackle football in schools. I mean, it's happening. It breaks my heart when I drive by a school now and see those little kids out there hitting themselves, and, you know, but it's coming. I mean, the NCAA's got some big lawsuits that hit it, and for 140 million each, you know, so it's going to be it'll come down to the high schools eventually, I think, and
When we were making the rounds in Washington and Karen testified in front of this Senate committee, one senator pulled us aside after and broke our heart, because he said, I think you need to realize it's going to take 10 years to do anything here.
I started to cry.
Yeah, because
That
we
was
thought-
12 years
we
ago.
thought the movement should have started that day.
Yeah,
And here we are 10 years later. And, you know, I think the awareness, people understand much more than they did, but boy, it's just not anything anybody wants to hear.
thank you.
Just a question, like, is there a school out there, anywhere, that has eliminated football?
Oh, yeah.
There are,
Oh, yeah.
So it has started.
Yeah, in the US a lot.
okay, so,
And sometimes it's because they're worried about, well, I'd say a lot of times it's because the parents have not let their kids play like they used to. It used to be a big thing. And now more and more moms are saying no. I wish I had been one of those moms. More and more moms are saying no, so they can't build enough of a team.
okay,
So
it's
that's
happening.
one reason. And then another reason, sadly, is because when you're battering your brain, I saw this with Patrick as a high schooler. He went from the sweetest little boy in the whole world to instant rage. He was short-tempered, irrational decision-making. You know, when you're hitting your brain all the time and it's inflamed, it's not working exactly 100% right. And some teams are being eliminated because the players are pulling these pranks and doing these stupid things that they're getting terminated because the administration's saying that team's out of control. You know, and they'll blame the coach, but it's more brain inflammation and kids just, their brains aren't right. And you're just bashing them 4 more times a week, every week. So, but then some places are saying that. Yeah.
Well, I got good news, it's happening here.
Oh, yeah?
Football is dying. I just had lunch with my oldest friend, he was an outstanding quarterback here at Central Tech. And had a football scholarship to Michigan. And he knows my attitude, which is antithetical to him. He had a son who was a great high school player and later played at the university. In 1978, that team went on, was the best in Toronto, Woburn Collegiate, but the best in Ontario. Today, Woburn Collegiate has no football team, and it's got the best cricket team.
Wow.
Now, I think our culture is quite different than American culture.
Yeah. Sadly.
And as Tony knows, I think within our own Catholic system, we have a better chance to go after the foot. There's still a few football nuts, but the school I taught at for many years, I taught in 2 Catholic schools, no football. Because of the immigration to Canada is quite different. And we don't have the culture
Yeah.
that, like, where are you folks from?
Philadelphia. We bang them a lot. We like to fight.
You got the Eagles and you got.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You got all of that. But you're nowhere near Texas.
No,
No,
Nowhere
No,
near.
you're right
I mean,
there.
you're in the north, you have a little more, look at what the culture is offering. And I would, I don't know how I go about it. The guy wrote about this 45 years ago. And I would say, first of all, I predicted, like you have predicted, that there's going to be a sea change. And what happened, I found as a teacher, was that the women, it was feminism that changed it. They went and said, why are you spending this inordinate amount of money? They didn't even argue as I did on a philosophical position and a theological one, because I was teaching in Catholic schools, that you got crucifixes in every room of a non-violent Jesus.
Yeah.
And you are promoting a game that is so violent.
Yes.
And I played it, and I got knocked out. I later went to university, and I started again, played quarterback and safety. But then when I started teaching, I said, no, this is absolutely wrong. And it was the women. And then with the CTE, when that started happening, now you mentioned, what's your first name?
Karen.
Karen, you mentioned that the number of people that have dropped out of football is down considerably.
Yes.
So you're hopeful that this trend will continue. And I'm wondering, I think that there's all sorts of, particularly female organizations that should be really right in the face.
Like Moms Against Drunk Driving. Yeah. We had a senator tell us that. He
Yes.
said the moms are going to change this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
overnight.
I hope you support Tony when he goes to the school board, because I think if he has a raucous group like this, yay. I think, what happens is in America, we'll have a congressman that wants to pass a bill for no tackling for children. And like 10 football coaches show up and scream and yell, and then they get intimidated and don't pass it. And that's not the general thinking. The general thinking in the population is like 70-some% do not think kids should be hitting. The people have sense. They know better. But they get these loudmouths that come in and intimidate them. And I think you guys could do him a big service and
They
show.
already are. They already are.
They are?
Yeah.
Good, good.
There's a loudmouth that went to the University of Pennsylvania to do the commencement address about 6 or 7 years ago. His name is Malcolm Gladwell. And
He's Canadian.
Is he? Oh, he's
Yes.
good. And he's on this.
He's a New Yorker now, but he's
He'll
Canadian.
never be invited back to University of Pennsylvania. He absolutely leveled the football program and said, how in the world, he was asking all the questions Karen just said.
Yeah.
How in the world can you do this and say you're an educational institution?
Yeah.
Destroying the-
Thank you very much, because that does give me hope. Like, it really started to see this is going to come, and that is good news. Somebody said to me, you didn't lose a son. It's kind of random. Why are you into this? Well, September 7th in 2012, a student in the community where I was teaching collapsed on the field, and he died 2 days later. So about a week later, I was asked to cover in the classrooms while they were out to the funeral. The question just arose in me, like, this doesn't seem right. He died playing football? Is this a one-time thing? Well, I started to think about it. I started to read about it. Look at this headline, 13-year-old dies from football injury, the 7th young player to die this month. Like, I tell you, that was September. By Christmas, I had some time. I did some writing, and I shot it off to people. I found people didn't want to touch it. I don't know. I couldn't let it go. I can't even tell you why. I went to the director of the board. I had a presentation. I just kept on going. Ted Smith wrote about schools getting out of football. Ted Smith is here. And he's a loyal Toronto Maple Leaf fan, it looks like. So that's a man of patience, you know. He wrote about this in 1979. And he started with this quote from the English poet William Cooper: "Damned sport that finds its pleasure in another's pain." 1979. My friend Garo Escogen, he just brought a paper that he wrote in 1983. These are people who think, and they think deeply about it and then write about it and then try to get people thinking about it. My experience is people don't want to think too much, you know. On my website, I listed 30 ridiculous things that people have said in response. I call it the Dirty 30. You can see it on my website. Anyway, I did this for, I guess it was 11 years later that 6 of us went and delegated. Some of the people that delegated are with me here, a science teacher. The 5-minute video that he did looking inside the brain is on my website. It was January 31st, and there were 6 of us. Michael Horenik, he called the board executives to a higher vision. You know what? Out of the 11 trustees, we had 3 on side. You need to get 6 on side. But one of the ones that was on side, she wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education. And she said, you know, Ontario has concussion protocols. It's actually a leader in Canada because we have Rowan's Law. Again, it took the death of a young person. Rowan Stringer died after getting concussions from rugby. And the parents did this work, and we have Rowan's Law. So if somebody has a concussion, they got to sit out for some time, get a doctor's note. That's a good thing. But here's what this trustee wrote to the Minister of Education. CTE is not mentioned in concussion policy or resource documents from the Ministry of Education or AFIA, that's the Ontario Physical Health Association. To that end, the Board of Trustees is respectfully requesting that the Ministry of Education support school boards by conducting a review of the emerging evidence and research on CTE and provide direction to the school boards regarding preventative action for contact sports in schools. That's not asking too much, is it? The Minister of Education sent us a reply. They said they were passing it on to the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Sport. So the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Sport, that was 3 years ago. To my knowledge, I haven't seen anything. I hope you're watching because I did invite you to this event, and I'm sure this will get to you. The Minister of Sport, Neil Lumsden, he played in the CFL, and he knows about this issue. He's donated his brain for research after he passes away. So again, I know this is coming. You know, another question, how is this not incredibly important? See, a lot of times you'll bring it up and they'll say, well, what about drinking and what about drugs? And yeah, okay, those are good things too. But what about if we just stay with this and just think about it on a few levels? Kids are getting a brain disease in our educational institutions. Like, surely they can't really believe it. I guess they don't know. I tell you what, I was talking to a coach just a few weeks ago. And, you know, he coaches in the school. And, you know, he was saying that'd be ridiculous just because a small percentage are getting this. And I said, well, there was University of Rochester. They monitor students' brains before the season and after the season. After 1 season of play, 2/3 of the young people had changes to the integrity of the white matter of their midbrains. 2/3. So it would be good if you do some reading before you give one of these glib answers that's not based on anything. You know, it also matters that we are able to reason. Again, these are educational institutions, you know, as we make decisions. I didn't lose a son. I can't imagine. But I am losing my faith in humanity and our capacity for reason and dialogue. You know, my wife is a very practical person. She said, tell the people, what is it that you're looking for? Well, let me look at it at different levels. Let's say there's a young person in high school and he hears this and he knows that he could get a brain disease and he doesn't play. That's a win. But I tell you what, when I was 16, 17, I couldn't see past my nose. And that's the nature of being young. The adults had to take responsibility for this. I hope that a parent sees this. I hope that many parents, you know, many parents already are saying, no way. There was a Bloomberg study, it said 62% of parents with a university degree would not let their own kids play. Again, the poor get shafted. A single mom working a couple of jobs who doesn't have time to look at the form and understand it and so on. I hope that a coach will look at this and change their ways. I know a coach. He said he brought kids to the hospital 3 times in one season, and he realized he wouldn't want this for his own son, and he just stopped coaching. This is happening a lot, but it's not happening enough. It shouldn't be going on at all. I hope that a principal will see this. A principal I spoke to recently about this, I don't want to tell you what he said. It's just not good. But I tell you what, it has been done. There was somebody who told me that this was a female principal, of course, and it was near the death of Gino Dulio. And this person told me they were sawing the helmets in half in the shop, and just said, we're not doing football here. But again, as long as you have a principal who wants it and a coach who wants it, it's still going on. So what we need is leadership from trustees and board administrators. They need to step up. And then, of course, in my experience, they pass it on to the government. So fine, at the government level. Again, we have Rowan's Law, but we would like guidance on this, and it's been asked for, and I think that it should come. Why do we have to wait for a death, another death, and a lawsuit? Ohio, they passed legislation marking CTE Awareness Day. So that is something. But again, in my opinion, it's not nearly enough. If we know that it causes a brain disease, then why promote it in schools? As far as what I'm asking for, on my webpage, it says this towards the end. There are many schools and school boards across North America. Perhaps you can raise the issue within your sphere of influence. You could talk to anyone from your parent council to the public health official in your area. The possibilities are endless. Your light will be your guide. I'll say it again. I didn't lose a child, but I am losing my faith in humanity. It's quite shaky right now, and it needs to lift. We need people to step up. Too many are saying, but it'll be bad for me if I do something. Somebody won't like me if I do this. Frances Haugen. Ted, it's amazing that you mentioned women. She was the whistleblower at Facebook. And this was a fascinating book, So the Power of One. The subtitle says, How I Found the Strength to Tell the Truth and Why I Do the Whistle on Facebook. And again, it's the same issue. They were putting their profits before the brain health of young people. They knew that their algorithms were hurting young people and making it addictive. And, she says there were 1,000 other people at Facebook that knew of this problem and didn't speak up. The Power of One. It's a beautiful read. We need people to step up. A few years ago, I was in Winnipeg. It was a bit of a pilgrimage, and we went to the Human Rights Museum. There's a little display there. Marina Nemeth, who wrote Prisoner of Tehran. She was somebody who spoke up and paid the price. The heart of a lion. And if you listen to the display, her voice comes on and it says, when you see evil, you have a responsibility to speak. There was a death of a young person in football in Winnipeg this past fall, Darian Outshorn. And I see the Premier of Manitoba as a person of courage. Maybe he'll be one to take the lead. We need some bear energy. Mother bear fiercely protects her young. That warrior energy. Look at a mother. A mother will rearrange her whole life for her young. We need to make this a priority. We're nurturing our young. We're also birthing a culture, and it's a culture of violence. But I tell you what, football can be beautiful too. It teaches courage. You put your body on the line. But for what? Are you ready to make a sacrifice for something that really matters? The well-being of our young people? When I bring this to those who are supposed to be responsible, what I get is strategic silence from people who are in positions of responsibility. What do I want? I want those in leadership to lead. I want them to either give a good reason why this is a good thing that we continue to promote violent sports, or make the changes that science demands. Even if it's hard for you, We need to change the criteria that we use in decision making. The only criteria is it good for kids? Enough of the deny, delay, and do nothing. Benedict Arnoldo is a man of passion and science and courage, along with a great reason. And I like to quote his New York Times opinion piece. It's called "Don't Let Kids Play Football." Our children are minors who have not reached the age of consent. It is our moral duty as a society to protect the most vulnerable of us. The human brain becomes fully developed at 18 to 25 years old. We should at least wait for our children to grow up, be provided with the information and education on the risk of play, and let them make their own decisions. An adult wants to play, no problem. Then he says, no adult, not a parent or a coach, should be allowed to make this potentially life-altering decision for a child. Now, you can just imagine some parents saying that you can't tell me what I can do with my own kid. But now think about that twice. Of course we can tell you that you can't hurt kids. We have a legal age for drinking alcohol, for joining the military, for voting, for smoking, for driving, and for consenting to have sex. We must have the same when it comes to protecting the organ that defines who we are as human beings. And I would add, especially in schools, where we're there to develop the human brain and the whole person. In schools, it's particularly problematic. There was an article in the American Journal of Bioethics where it's school spirit and, the coach needs to get kids and, hey, you'd be good and you can impress your girlfriend and all of this kind of stuff. And before he knows it, disaster. I would argue that the well-being of students comes before perpetuating the sport. I had one person say to me, they should be 18 before they play. So they're, old enough to make that decision. And she said, we need to feed the system. We need to feed the system? We need to change the system. We need to change the way we think. The way that we make a decision, is it good for the kids? My high school principal, that's all that mattered. In 2016, Benedict Arnoldo received the Meritorious Service Award, the highest award that the American Medical Association grants. And I'm going to finish with his words because I really identify with them. He says this, the American Medical Association, by giving this award, has rejuvenated my faith in all of us. Because, they had criticized him and now they were coming around. Through my science, I discovered faith. I'm a forensic pathologist. I discovered that science and faith actually go together because science and faith seek the truth. If you practice the humanity of your faith and the humanity of your science, you must have no choice but to see the truth and stand with the truth. Because come what may, the truth will never fail. The truth is that enhances each and every one of us. Not that enhances the humanity of only a select few or only you. I am at peace. Because of this gift you have given me, you have rejuvenated my hope. And together by faith, we should do great things. The impossible shall become possible. Thank you so much. On my website, I got this little thing here. There's, what do I hope for? Look at this. There's a new headline. So here's the old headline. Football kills, nobody really cares. That's where the title of my website comes from, because I refuse to believe that second part. But how about a new headline? Football kills, one school board takes action. Or this one. The government of Ontario passes Patrick's Law. We have Rowan's Law. We can do this. And I guess that ends our evening, 7:57. So we decided to go from 7 to 8, and we're going to hang out and have a cookie to all online. Thank you very much for being here. Here, we're not online anymore. You can, where's whiskey?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being here.
So guys, let me just tell you one thing. Excuse me, class. You're okay, that's okay. Kevin from Authentic Films is going to take sound bites for everybody. So if anybody